welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. This is just a quick what's up. I want to share. So last week when I didn't have YouTube, or I didn't have access to it, I was like doing everything I can, like cleaning up my Canva crap. I had so many documents and shit that I just haven't looked at or used, and so I was cleaning everything out, and then I found my thesis. I found the PDF to my thesis, which I already turned into a playlist. I did read like an audiobook. I read my thesis out loud on it's the Community Resiliency Mental Health as Social Control playlist. So if you want to go over there. But I printed it out and I bound it because I can do that. And my other copy of it was in the RVs that got stolen. So this is one of my favorite published pieces that I've written. And I wanted to share. I think the important thing about this, and the reason I wanted to make it into a video quick, is because the pathologizing of behavior is something that we're seeing come down really hard within this administration, which arguably it always has. But this administration is talking a lot about labeling people with mental illness if they are any sort of resistant to what this administration is doing, which I'm like frozen because how can you, as like certifiably insane maniacs, label other people as like crazy, right? But Trump has talked a lot about reopening asylums. They're talking a lot about sending like autistic kids to camps. They're talking about conversion therapy. And the reason I bring this up in regards to my thesis is because my thesis really took a look at the parallels, the relationship and the parallels between social movements and the way that the system responded to social movements within the context of mental health. So, for instance, back in the 80s, the DSM-3, I believe, for sure the DSM-2, but I think it was alleviated in the DSM-3. It was definitely alleviated in the DSM revised. So there's like 7 copies of the DSM. I don't think there's been a new one since the 5 has been published. Perhaps there has. But the DSM started in 1952, the first edition, and then there was a progression of mental health disorders. And again, all of these mental health disorders were in response to some sort of social control. Like, people are talking, some folks are talking about, like, back in the times of slavery, which honestly wasn't that long ago, in the grand scheme of things, how it was considered a mental illness to, like, want to be free, right? So that's a great example of how that was turned into what we know the mental health systems today. So back to the 80s, there was something about gayness, or maybe even trans folks, but I'm pretty sure gay people were in, like, it was in the DSM to be gay, right? It was considered a mental illness. And because of societal pressure, especially in the 80s, we know that was a big time for the gay movement, the pride movement, trans folks as well. We know that they pressured them to take that out of the DSM, and it worked, right? So what we're seeing right now, and the reason I bring this up, is because the administration is taking, I'm getting an image of like a baseball player, or like maybe a tennis would be a better, like all of these ball, like with those automatic ball throwers, and then like a tennis player having to like, hit so much. That's what it feels like this administration is doing. They're hitting every fucking topic that they possibly can that has any semblance of progress, right? Societal progress. And they are undoing that. And I think that's just important because I wrote this paper 10 years ago, about 12 years ago or so. But it's still, it matters today, right? It's happening right before our eyes. So I encourage you to go over there and check it out if you feel called. Also on my TikTok, one of my tagged videos on my TikTok profile, my TikTok is just Ascending Ashley. But if you go on my TikTok, you will see this timeline that I put together. It is pinned on my profile, mental illness as social control. And it is from 400 BC to 2017. I stopped at 2017 because I was no longer in school. I think the last one is like Trump was elected. So it's on my profile and my TikTok, which again is Ascending Ashley. There's no with over there. That's my old profile. Ascending with Ashley is my old profile, but my new profile is Ascending Ashley. And you can check this out. It is pages of, these are the years that the DSM was, oops, there's a typo. Oh no, there's not. These are the years that the DSM was published. So again, that's that progression of quote unquote mental illness alongside, like, in a response to any sort of social or civil rights or requests, right? So that's the basis for my thesis work. And this timeline, again, goes through a lot. So the APA itself wasn't even... What year was the APA? The APA was formed in 1844. And that is, I was thinking that when I said the thing about how slaves wanted to be... 1865, slavery was officially abolished with the ratification of the 13th Amendment. 1863 is when the Emancipation Proclamation was declared. So the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, was founded or formed in 1844. So that the existence of what we are all now continuing to experience was formed before slavery was even abolished. So again, community resilience through, what is it called? Community resiliency through organizing and action. Mental health as a form of social control. Specifically, this looks at Skid Row, which is the homeless capital of the country in Los Angeles. So go check everything out if you want. Again, you don't have to read this. I'm not going to print you a copy. This took a really long time to print. It's 150 pages, but at least 50 of those pages are resources that I used to write. So it's about 100 pages of actual writing. But yeah, really important. So when we think about what we're seeing and experiencing in the language and rhetoric and practices that are being reintroduced, right? Or not even reintroduced, they're being, reintroduced. We can think about, how did people respond in the past, right? Because it does matter and it does make a difference. Okay? Have a good one.